All right. So now we have our franchise information. So really all we need from this, what we're really trying to get in the franchise here, is we're trying to take the franchise ID and tie that to a franchise name. And so guess what? Great place for us to use a map. So I'm going to call this real quick. I'm going to create a map, control space, YouTube, Java util map if you need to import that. And the map takes a key and a value. And I can specify the type of the key and value. And so in this case, it's actually just going to be a string and a string. And so this is going to be the franchise. I'm going to use a fancy term here, crosswalk. Okay, so what the franchise walk cross? No, you know what? This I don't actually want to use the crosswalk here. This is not where I'm using the crosswalk. Let me take that back. Franchise name. Let's just start with that. Um, and this is equal to a new. I can use any type of map I want to do inside of here. So either a hash map or a tree map. We'll learn about the implementations later on. The main question I want to hear is, do I care about the organization? And honestly, I don't at this point. So I'm going to use a hash map. They tend to be slightly faster. Notice here, it puts a diamond with nothing inside of it. You can do string string on this side, but in modern versions of Java, you don't need to, which saves you some typing. It just infers the type based off of the left-hand side. So nice little thing here. So here, what I want to add in is I want to add in to the map franchise name. Oops, nope, not a franchise name. Franchise name, not the file. I want the name. Dot put the key and the value. So the key, as we saw from the file, is the 0th element, and the name is the first element. So let's do that. So let's put in token sub 0 and tokens sub 1. All right. And then I don't need to print this out anymore. And just to make sure it's all working, I'm going to do a system.out.println here of franchise name. Because when I print a map, it'll actually print out more than just a pointer to the map. And I forgot a semicolon here. So this is the first entry of maps inside of here, which then has, for this key, WOR, it's going to tell me it's the Worcester Ruby Legs, the baseball team. And again, there you go. So the Nationals, NAT is the Nationals. Oh, the Cleveland Infants, CLI. Maybe they'll go back to Cleveland Infants, but there's all of the mappings inside of there. So there is my franchise file. So let me leave my franchise file alone for a minute. And then we're going to get into some more of it. So let me actually introduce you to the team info object. So the team info object is going to be based off the teams file, which says I'm going to get the year, the team name, the attendance, the salary, the wins, and the losses is what I want out of that. That's what I want to fill into this file. So the franchise is going to fill the team name. We're going to use the franchise name inside of here instead of the name in this file. Honestly, mostly just to get an extra file into this exercise. It's not necessarily required, but it does allow us to keep a consistent franchise name out there. And that's our next task here. So we're going to kind of burn through this a little bit quickly, but because we have a structure here. We can actually take this whole thing and copy and paste it. Now, it's going to complain at me because I've already defined in, I've already defined line. I can do two things. I can change the variable name in and line. I can do three things. I can change the variable name in and line to something else, but then I have to change it in all the rest of my code. Or I can actually put each of these inside of a block. I'm going to show you how that works. It puts it inside of a block, and then it doesn't matter because this variable goes away at the end of it. Or I'm going to take probably the least desirable but the easiest path, which is just reuse these variables. It actually doesn't matter. It's technically speaking slightly more efficient, but it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But I'm going to use this file now, and I'm going to use this for the team file. Now, if you need, you can go through the exact same process we did in the first video to prepare this video, which would be basically I take this, I do a read line, I print out the read line, I split it in tokens, I print out the tokens. I can do all that. I'm actually going to use some of my experience and just fast forward past a little bit of that. And I'm going to actually show you a little bit of a trick that I use as well. So my inevitable goal is I'm going to get it into tokens, which is going to be the data that shows up in this team file. All of this mess that I'm going to be off there reading. I think oh yeah, so yeah, no, I didn't do that. Ghome was already there. So I need to figure out which of these indices for each of these items corresponds to the stuff I want. And so what do I want? Well, I want team info. So let me go back to my code here. And so every time I see a new line, I got a team there. And I need a team info object that's going to be created, which is going to be the data for the team. It's going to be a new team info object. And I don't think, yes, I can put stuff in the constructor, but I don't need to. So I'm going to start with an empty constructor. And so for the team, I need to do a bunch of set here. So I want to set the attendance. I'm just put it for 0 for now. I want to do team.set. So I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to set the losses. And again, I'm going to set this to be 0. Team.set the team name, and that's going to be a string. I'm just help organizing my information here. Now I actually built this object, and you probably won't have the object out there for you, but you might have an object you're trying to fill. It depends on if you're working in a team or whatnot. You might be creating this as you go. The wins and the year. All right. So these could be string values. They could be integer values. They could be float values. They could be any data type out there. But since somebody provided for me the data I care about, I provided for me, but I provided for you too. This is the stuff I want to grab out of that file. All right. So how do I know what data to get? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to my teams file here, and I'm going to open this with the system editor, Excel, because this allows me to cheat nicely. This is a nice hack, not necessarily anything to do with Java. But I want to figure out, so I know that the first item is going to be index 0, and the second item is going to be 1 greater than that, and so on. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go and paste this to every one of the, sorry, this will be equal to that plus 1. Sorry, I'm going to take this, I'm going to paste this all the way out, and now I know the index of all of these different fields. And so the year ID is index 0. All right, so let me go back to my code. And so for the year, this is going to be tokens sub 0, but it's a string, so I need to convert that to an integer. So integer.parseInt for token sub 0. So again, if you could do this with Scanner, but you'd have to read them in order if you did it with Scanner, and you could automatically convert it. But I like this method. I get a line, do it with the tokens, comma separated, and go from there. So if you have used Scanner or other objects, you're perfectly well to use it. This is my preference, not the required way to parse CSVs. All right, so there's the year ID. And then the next thing I wanted to get is I need to get the name of the team, and I can get that by getting the franchise ID and correlating that with the franchise name. All right, so the team name here. So what I want to do is I want to say, well, the franchise name, oops, not grant entry, what the heck is that? Franchise name dot get based off of the tokens at number 3. All right, and that's going to get me the team name. Now, there's a lot more I could be doing here, but I'm actually just going to really quick do a system.out.println of the team, which I can do because there's there's double check. There should be a toString inside of here. Yes, there is, and it'll print out my team info, and let's just see how I'm doing. Let's not try and code the whole thing. I've framed the whole thing, but let's see how I'm doing. Now, it says I have a compilation error here. Control-Shift-O fixes my imports, so I did something wrong with my imports, and now it went away. So I hit run. Oh, now they're all broken. Everything's broken here. Let's see what the problem is. Oh, the exception. A number format exception for input year ID. So what the heck is happening there? So it tells me it's on line 51. Right here. Oh, well, it's not parsing this into a number because it got the value year ID. Well, where the heck did it get value year ID from? Well, it got it from the very first line of code, which is not a number, it's a year ID. Well, I got to fix that, which is an easy thing to forget. And in this case, I forgot on purpose, but I often forget on accident. Sometimes the first line of the file is a header line. So just read the line twice. Skip the header. All right. So it's not my code problem, but just I forgot that there's a header line inside of there, which is not an actual number. So let's run that again. Look at that. So I have a bunch of team info for 2020. I have the Washington Nationals, the Toronto Blue Jays, Texas Ranger, and you can see I can go back in time. I have all of the, wow, this is a lot of them. All of the data. This goes back to 1992, not because the data goes back to 1992, but because my output actually cuts off at some point. If I look at the teams, you see it goes back to 1871, but I don't see them all because it only shows me so many lines in my console output. I think you can configure that, but it's definitely capped it out at this point. All right, so let's see. Yep, it's just showing that. All right, so now we can just go and fill the rest of it by looking at the values, and I have my helper to make that happen. So wins and losses is 8 and 9 as far as indices go. So I'm actually just going to copy this right here. And so wins is 8, and losses is 9. Attendance. Let's see if I can find attendance here. We'll scroll over. Let's see. Oh, there's attendance right here. This is number 42. All right. So attendance is 42. Salary. There is no salary right there. Right? So the salary is not from this file, it's from the other file, so I'm going to leave that one 0 for the time being. All right? But now we have theoretically all the data. Let's run it and see what happens. Oh, we still have an error. Number format input for an input blank. What line of code is that? Well, let's go line 47. Well, we noticed here attendance is sometimes 0. Is not known. So they didn't track attendance in 1871. They didn't start simulated track attendance until 1890, so that's not bad. But again, we don't necessarily have that in every case. It just means we have to add a check to that. So if oops, tokens for 42 dot lengths greater than 0. Oops, this might, is that, wait. Yeah, length. Just didn't spell it right. Then we set the attendance. Otherwise, it's going to be 0 by default. All right, so I think we're back to where we were. It's reading everything. You can see we got wins and losses. And note in 2020, there's a significantly number as a shortened season, so it's a smaller number of wins and losses than you'll normally see. But we have, and no attendance in 2020, which, by the way, because there was no attendance in 2020, they played the games without anyone being there. But you can see if we roll back up to 2019, Atlanta Braves had this attendance and this no salary yet, but 97 wins, 65 losses. You probably should go through and spot check the printout with the data that comes out of the file and make sure that's all matching. I'm just going to trust myself for now. The test cases will tell me later on if I'm doing it right or wrong. So I'm okay, but I just want to stop this video and let you move along. All right, so now we've read the franchise file and we've read the team file, and we need to just fill in the salary.